Welcome to the Now You Know Akron podcast, brought to you by the journalists of beaconjournal.com. Each week, they will share their expertise on Akron and Summit County. Now, here's your host, Craig Webb.
Well, we welcome you back to the Now You Know Akron podcast and our continuing series about decisions by reporter Tawney Beans. And we're also joined by Chris Harvey. And this one is, I hate to say it's one I don't know a lot about. And it's called Changing Careers and Starting a Career. So I think I started a career. So first of all, welcome both of you.
Thanks for having us on here, Craig.
And it seems like I'm becoming a little cliche, and I say this every time. Full disclosure, I've only had two jobs. Looking back since I graduated from college, I mean, it's crazy. I'm 54, and I worked at my first newspaper for 10 years, and I've been at the Beacon for 22. And so I think I'm an oddball because I have friends, even my contemporaries, who are like, it's just crazy that I've only had two business cards. I've changed jobs, I guess, within the jobs. I had more than two business cards, but I'm really, I think, out of step. I mean, Tawney, what tell me a little bit about what you found and why you picked this particular topic for this series of articles about making decisions.
Yeah, so the reason I ended up picking this is very similar to the reason I ended up picking the other topics, is because I was trying to see what big decisions people, were bound to make and what they thought about those big decisions. And I specifically focused on the ones attached to the American dream. And, part of that is you're coming home from your office job to your your suburb house with your 2.5 kids or whatever. So the whole job part of that is kind of interesting because a lot of the ways people are looking at jobs and careers now is very different than in the 1950s, 60s, when that kind of ideal was made. So that's why I kind of focused on that. And so far, what I found is, a lot of people have been, they do have very different views. A lot of people are like, you know what you got to do. You might, if you want to change to have something that you enjoy, then do it. They're very, I don't think I found very many people that were kind of like, no, you should stay wherever you are. That'll benefit you more than changing. So that was really cool.
Chris, I think I saw this quote that you said. I think the days of people staying at one or two jobs a quarter of their lives is on the way out, if not already out. So I've been canceled. Is that what you're saying? I'm the canceled generation. No, but I mean, so is that kind of your thoughts too? I mean, the way you.
Yeah, I just think at this point it's kind of the reality. It's just like if somebody is trying to stay at a place, like, props to you. Everybody's life is different, so you got to do what works for you. But I just feel like with the reality of just the way things are right now, and even before COVID, it was just like, hey, you could stay at one place, but it might not be like financially feasible, if that makes sense. Like, you could be missing out on raises, promotions, more responsibilities, and I feel like now I kind of equate jobs almost to like now where we're in I would say like almost like a sports contract era of such. It's like, well, these are my talents. These are what I'm good at. If it's not being acknowledged here, or if just doesn't the right fit, because sometimes it's just not the right fit. It's nothing on the employer or the employee side. It just doesn't fit. And so sometimes you're just like, hey, I'm going to have to go move to this place because they're offering me X, Y, and Z, and that fits. So I think just with the more modern times and contemporary times, I think it's kind of almost kind of hard to choose not to now. I mean, I'm sure there's some jobs, like I said, if you land something and it's going to be good and it works out, stay there, do what works for you. If you're happy, stay there. But it's also a employees market right now. And I think it's kind of been that way for a minute. So we'll see what happens.
So what about your own work history? I mean, what about your own work history? What have you done in your own, career so far?
Well, so my work history, I started out when I was in high school. I joined the military, just the Ohio National Guard. I did that for 6 years and was going to school. I went overseas for a year. I came back. Ended up going into security because I was in that spot where I had 3 years left in the Guard. Still kind of not sure about school, so I don't want to use up all the benefits. So I really narrow down what I want to do, but I need to pay bills. So I started working security and was doing that for like, I think I did that for about 4 or 5 years. Uh, I started, like I said, I started at the last halfway point in my enlistment. So I did that for about 5 years. And the last year of security, I was like, okay, I think I know what I want to do. I'm ready to go back to school. And initially, I was going to go to school for like web design and web development. And one of the first classes I had to take was a visual communication design class. And it was more focused on graphic design. And then I was like, whoa, that's it. That's the thing that I want to do. That, web design and development was cool, but like this is what clicks. This is what I want to do. So I switched my major. I was at Tri-C Community College. I switched my major and I started going to graphic design, that whole curriculum. And then once again, I was like working part time. I was still working security, but going to school. And then I started discovering that also with graphic design, it's like, oh, I don't have to work at a traditional place either. I can freelance or I can work at a place as a contractor. And just kind of, so in my field, I feel like it's kind of almost like, yeah, you can get like an agency job, you can get a job with a company, but you can also, it's kind of encouraged almost to build your portfolio. It's like you could freelance, you can contract, you can kind of make your own schedule. And so that's kind of where I'm at now, and I like really enjoy it. I don't feel like you know I don't feel like my benefits and my income, I'm relying on someone or a third party. I feel like, oh no, it's all on me. If I want to have a nice month, I gotta grind for it. If I want to have a not as nice month, I guess I can take it easy. But it's nice to be able to have that flexibility. So that's what made it worth it.
So you find liberating, an old guy like me finds scary. I mean, I kind of grew up in a generation where, you have to have insurance, you have to think about pensions. I mean, we don't have pensions anymore, but I'm so quaint that I will even mention we're pension. But, that when I was, younger, I mean, it was like, well, you had to get married. I mean, all my decisions were kind of driven by tradition, I guess. And so I guess it's just so fascinating now that, everything kind of, for me, non-traditional. But is that, I mean, is it, you're saying it's liberating, but is there sometimes you think, well, I don't know, as I get gray like old man Webb with two B's, not the profitable one B, but I don't know. I mean, what do you, I guess, there's a question in there somewhere. So what do you see as your future? I mean, do you think eventually you'll be at an agency with all that, safeguards and safety nets, or do you kind of see yourself maybe having your own business?
Well, I was gonna say with the whole way for me it's worked out, and personally, just like I feel like probably every week is a like, oh, I'm doing this, but also, so it is a lot like kind of a little scary, and it is like very up to the individual. I'm able to do a lot of it because I was in the military and I have military benefits like the going to school, and that I know is not an option for a lot of folks. And so super thankful that that worked out for me. But yeah, there's times where I'm like, oh, I don't really have the traditional safety net of a job, and so I tend to go, I do miss that, but then I don't. So I don't know. For right now, I am okay with where I'm at because I feel good on the inside. I'm, even on a slow month for me, I'm still like, I'm happy though. At the end of the day, I feel like I can always be resourceful and just, like I said, grind it out if I need to, do the things I need to. But for right now, I think at least for the next 5 to 10, I think I'm cool doing my own thing. And I think maybe one day, yeah, I would like to move towards like establishing myself more as like a business owner and doing something like that. Because I think the more that I'm not in that traditional role, is the more I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I really want to go back. So it just all depends. But yeah, there's definitely scary times where it's like, oh, I'm not necessarily doing this, but just being focused on remembering what it was like before and remembering where I'm at now. I just have to keep that in my mind. And also, I just feel like, and that's kind of one of the thing from the military too, is like you never want to come out. You know, I guess it would be like you never want to come out against yourself, even if you don't think you're gonna do great. Like you never know, no professional sports players like, guys, I hope we don't lose today. It's always like, no, we gotta win. And if you don't win, hey, let's focus on the next thing and let's keep moving forward. So it's kind of like that. Yeah, it's scary, but I can't let myself feel like, oh, for too long. I have to keep moving because life never stops. So
I think one thing the pandemic kind of taught me, at least, is that, first of all, I think I'm the non-traditional one anymore, having worked as long as I have, at two jobs. I mean, I'm really kind of the oddball, the weirdo in the room. But I think the pandemic taught us just how many people have, really a part of the gig economy. I mean, the gig economy being that kind of non-traditional, or I say non-traditional again, but not working necessarily a 40-hour one place with benefits, and, that so many, even nurses and, professionals are really kind of in this gig economy, and it is kind of liberating because that when you do a project, that job is done, right? I mean, chapters closed, and have you found that the work has been steady? I mean, have you been able to, string it along, that you're not, you know?
yeah, I would say pretty steady for where I'm at in my career. I have no complaints really. It's pretty steady. I might have like a couple busy months and then maybe a slow month and then back to being busy. So it seems to pick up. I maybe have, I guess, out of the whole year, maybe like 3 months where it might be slow, but they're spread out through the whole year. So it's never, I haven't hit a patch where it's, fingers crossed, I haven't hit a patch where it's just been like, oh, there's nothing. So I would say it's pretty steady. And like I said, it's just one of those things where it's like, at this point, the money is, we all need money. We got to pay bills. But at this point, as long as I get the bills and responsibilities taken care of, I got I have my time. And that's something that's like, yeah, employers can't really, it's kind of hard to negotiate free time for yourself.
Well,
Just be able to go and walk and not have to be thinking about, oh, when I get to work tomorrow, or I can actually feel like, oh, it's Saturday, I'm giving myself a break or it's the weekend. I don't have to think about, it allows me to not have to think about work,
well, it's
so
not
that for
it's a non-traditional work schedule. Tawny, what did you find in the folks you talked to? Is Chris typical? I keep going that typical and traditional. I don't know. I need to get out my thesaurus and find some new words. And while you talk, I'll look up some new words here.
Okay, well, while you do that, Craig, yeah, I would say Chris's view on that is pretty normal. The other 11 people that I talked to in my series, most of them were saying, if you want to change careers, if what you're doing doesn't make you happy, they were like, go. Just, probably leave on good terms would be a also good added bonus to that. But, do not let what you're doing now and your thought that you have to stay there keep you from maybe evolving into something and going somewhere else or starting your own business. And it may just be more fulfilling. That seemed to be like a really big kind of concept that a lot of people were saying is more important than anything else. Are you fulfilled and happy with what you're doing? Because if you're going to be working for 40 years, you better like it.
Tawny, I mean, you're kind of like me, though. I mean, you're younger, but you kind of joined the Beacon fairly. How long has it been? You joined us full time? It's been about a year.
Oh, it'll be a year in June. So
So there
yeah.
are different paths in journalism too, right? I mean, you could have got the gig economy. I mean, and worked on projects and worked for part time, or dove in full time. What made you make your decision? I mean, what kind of shaped you?
Well, maybe I'm like you with this, Craig, or maybe it's just the way I grew up. I like security. I like knowing. I like having a calendar that I get to write down payday every other week. So I grew up in a pretty secure environment, but I like having benefits and everything. And even though, you work 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and I have to plot everything around that. To me personally, it's worth it to know that I have a retirement and sick days and blah, 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 and all the, I guess, traditional parts that come with that. And so that's kind of what shaped my decision in, going to the Beacon, and I plan to be here for quite a while longer. So, versus, I do know some of the people, I graduated college with, went out and they freelanced and did their own separate things and are kind of going story by story, making their way. But personally for me, and that's just, it's been a little scary for me. So I didn't do that.
Well, we went through that too. I mean, I've always kind of been full time, but my wife, we had 5 kids, full disclosure again, and probably more information you ever want to know about me. But, so my wife stopped working. So we were dual income, no kids. We were dinks, as they call them. And then we went from just one income. And so she would freelance. And Chris, you probably talked to this, that sometimes she had clients that would hold an invoice for 30 days. She has some clients that paid right away. So it was always this like mystery, going, now you've been mowing things. So you kind of know instantly when it arrives, but, going to the mailbox and say, no paycheck. I mean, so,
Yeah.
I mean, how do you find? I mean, you find that you're being in the gig economy, your clients pay timely? I mean, is it kind of, do you have to wait for pay? I mean, like I said, some of the, in the past, they would hold it for 30 days. They'd be like, oh, it'll be 45 days before we get paid.
Well, I was going to say, one of my things I learned early on, I would say, within like probably a year within the freelancing was, ask for 50% upfront. That definitely helps. Or even if it's not 50, even if you 30, 40, make it so that, you're not like when you finish that project, you're waiting on that final last invoice, make it so that you're not hurting for that invoice. So that's like one of the things. It's like things like that you start picking up on. But yeah, that is like one of the things with I guess freelancing. But then the other thing, and a lot of the reasons that probably drove me to this path more so than others, like I said, I was in the military. I did 6 years. I got hurt. I had a training incident. It gave me a traumatic brain injury and a side effect of seizures. And I did all the things that I was supposed to do, but I still ended up getting stuck with like medical debt. End up getting stuck with like symptoms and all that, like lifelong symptoms. And from then on, it was just like, for me, my outlook changed. And I know it's different for every person, whether they want a traditional role or a non-traditional role, slowly becoming traditional. But one of the things that kind of changed my outlook on, like, you could do all the right things, and that doesn't mean it'll always work out. And at the end of the day, the only person that has to sit with all that is going to be you. So that was like one of the big things that kind of swayed me, or not swayed me, but just like made me look at things of like, well, I could try to do all the things. So let me, I want to, if I'm gonna be on this journey or whatever, I want to make the decisions and the choices as much as possible.
Well, I do love your one quote. I can't let business, workplace define an aspect of my life. Us defining our lives is one of the few things that we truly own in this world.
Yeah.
And you own it. You own it.
I try to as much as I can. I mean, there's still things you have to, fall in line with, and, there's stuff you still got to do. And like Tawney was saying, like, keeping things professional and stuff, even with whether you decide to change careers or not, always trying to leave on good terms as best you can. But yeah, one of the few things you own is the way you live your life and the way you choose to live your life. And I just feel like sometimes like work will kind of determine how that can be, but it doesn't always have to be the final thing. And like I said, I had a whole experience in the military with getting hurt, and just that changed a lot of things for me, because it taught me how short life is, and just how, at the end of the day, I kind of want to be able to make the things for myself, and taking some other outside consideration. But at the end of the day, I think each of us should make our own choices as much as we can.
Well, you've taken something that was negative, right? I mean, getting hurt, never great. it really has defined you, and maybe in a weird way been the best thing that ever happened, right? I mean,
yeah, I would.
Tawney and I and clicking in at 7 o'clock in the morning for a meeting, a Zoom meeting, but but because that happened, it really kind of changed your outlook. I mean, that really sometimes, an adversity in life makes it better. I mean, that sounds weird to say, but
You can definitely turn something around and make it positive, or at least use that as your motivation, or at least use it to see a different perspective. I can't, because I don't think I would have been where I am now if that didn't happen. I couldn't, before then I was just, I don't know. I'd probably be working somewhere 9 to 5, never thinking twice about it. But that whole experience kind of set these things in motion that I never thought would happen, but they're starting to happen. So
you might have settled for that. You might have settled for a safe job, but now you've kind of, well, I mean, true, right? I mean, you might have settled for a safe job, but because of that, you determined to fight and really, carve your, what you really love in life, and I mean, you're living a dream.
And
I want to live your life.
I was gonna say, and that makes it with those, like we were talking about, with those the short months, or like all the freelancing hang-ups and things that happen. For me, that makes it always like puts things into perspective, because I'm always like, no. If it's gonna be a short month, it's gonna be a short month. I gotta move on, because it could always be worse. And like I've been through some pretty, worse things as far as like medically and stuff. So, I think I've had about 9 seizures. Hit my head like 4 to 5 times. So, I'm starting to, as I get older, I'm starting to feel the effects of that. When this all happened, I was like early 20s. And so like, it didn't really hit, because that's how brain injuries are. They come later. You feel the stuff later in life. And as I get older and I'm starting to see the effects, I'm like, yeah, well, if whatever's going to happen is going to happen, but I want to do as much as I can on my own terms. And so if it's going to be a short month, I'll be all right. Like, we'll figure something out.
Well, what a great conversation. So I want to thank both of you for joining us, and as we continue on with our decisions series.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah,
both.
thanks, Craig. Thanks for coming on here, Chris. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Tawney.